few years ago, one of my close friends and business partners was, and still is, a single dad. His ex-wife had been in and out of mental institutions for years, so he had sole custody of his two kids, a 10-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. My friend had to go to New York to handle the multimedia setup for the auto show at the Ford display. I went to the office with the computer people during the day, and I looked after the children in the evening. They lived in a new 2-story house that they rented in Woodlands, Texas. The neighborhood was built in a place with lots of trees, not far from Houston. Strange things started to happen the first night I stayed there. I was watching TV with the kids. The lights in the room would suddenly turn off. The switch to turn them on again was far away on the opposite side. I walked over to check, and the switch was off. I thought maybe there was a problem with the electrical system or another switch I didn't know about. But if there was another switch, who turned it off? I turned the switch back on, the lights came back on, and then I went back to my seat. The lights turned off again. I went back and saw that someone had manually flipped the switch back to off. That made me feel uneasy. This kept happening for some time. I asked the kids if it had happened before, and they said that sometimes the lights would go off. So now I'm trying to act like it's not a big deal in front of the kids. All of a sudden, there was a big noise coming from the attic. We went upstairs and opened the attic door to see what it was. But there was nothing up there. The attic was empty, so we couldn't figure out what had caused the loud crash. I started to think that maybe someone else was in the house. Their mom had shown up unexpectedly at their old house before, but she was in jail back then and supposedly didn't know this address. Everything got quiet, and it was time to go to bed. I brought the family's Labrador Retriever inside, checked all the doors to make sure they were locked, and then I went upstairs to the guest room, which was in the middle of the kids' rooms. I left my door slightly open, and after turning off the bedside lamp, as I was lying down, I saw the shadow of a boy on the other side of the room, near me. I thought maybe it was the sunlight playing tricks, so I turned on the bedside lamp and said, "Gotcha." But there was nobody there. Then there was another loud crash in the attic. This woke the kids up, and now they were scared. Then we heard a door slam downstairs. I reassured them that in a new house, there are often strange noises. I also said I would sleep on the daybed in the hallway. After checking everything again, we all went back to bed. The next morning, when I woke up, I saw that the kids and the dog were all asleep on the floor next to my bed. I had 4 more nights to stay. The next day, I arrived at the house as it was getting dark. The wind was getting stronger, making the tree branches sway. I could hear thunder in the distance, but the kids seemed okay. I helped them with their homework and cooked dinner. Finally, we all sat down to watch TV. The storm was getting worse, with more thunder and lightning. The living room in the house was really big. It had tall windows from the floor to the ceiling, and the walls went all the way up to the roof. There was a balcony inside on the second floor that went around 3 of the walls. There was a balcony outside facing the backyard. You could see from the upper windows out to the lower part of the outside balcony. Now the rain was pouring down heavily. The wind was blowing hard, and lightning was flashing all around. Suddenly, the daughter said she saw something moving out on the balcony. I looked up and saw what seemed like a pair of legs in dark pants quickly passing by one of the windows. I hurried up the back stairs from the kitchen to the second-floor hallway and went out through the balcony door. The cold wind was blowing rain straight at me, soaking me through, but I didn't see anyone on the balcony. I went back downstairs and told them there was nobody outside. Shortly after, I said it was time for bed. The son went straight to bed and fell asleep. The daughter was scared of storms. The dog wouldn't go into her room, and her cat was missing. I told her I'd stay with her until she fell asleep. I brought a chair into her room and put it on the left side of her bed. We talked about storms, and I shared stories about being in a tent during really bad storms when I was in the army. Suddenly, there was a loud thunderclap and a flash of lightning. I saw a dark figure, about 5 feet tall, standing in the far corner of her room. I quickly stood up, but then I didn't see anything there anymore. I didn't want to wake her up, so I carefully walked around her room and checked the hallway. Then, I slowly sat back down. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep again. Later, I heard a noise and started to look around. The cat was curled up at the foot of her bed, and the dog was starting to lie down by my feet. The storm had passed, and when I looked outside her bedroom window, I saw stars shining above the tree line. I went to lay down on the daybed in the hallway, and just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard a door downstairs slam shut. It sounded like the kitchen door leading to the garage. I went downstairs to check. The kitchen door, garage door, and front door were all closed and locked. I thought about going to the master bedroom suite, but something inside me said not to. So I went back upstairs and lay down again. It felt like only seconds later when the alarm went off, signaling the start of a new day. I had to get breakfast ready, and it was my turn to drive the kids to school. Most days in that house were pretty much the same. All I know for sure is that there was something wrong with that house. This happened 3 years ago. My best friend's name is Elizabeth, and she's a year younger than me, maybe 14 or 15 at the time. We planned to have a sleepover at my house. It isn't super old, maybe around 50 years old, but I'm not exactly sure. Elizabeth and I thought it would be fun to make a Ouija board and play with it. She agreed, asking when we should do it. We both attend a private Christian school, and she is quite religious, but not extremely. But I insisted, sticking to the idea. I said, "How about tonight?" She looked at me seriously and said, "Definitely." I wouldn't say my house is haunted, but when I was younger, I saw my great-grandfather pass away in front of me. Anyway, the night passed, and I avoided the topic until Elizabeth asked, "So, are we making this Ouija board or not?" I looked at her and said, "So you were really serious about that, huh?" "Yep," she replied. "Okay then," I said. "Let's make the board." I got up and grabbed a drawing notebook. I tried to draw a Ouija board twice, but Elizabeth ended up taking over. So I searched for something to use as a planchette, and we ended up using a clear plastic bottle cap. She finished making the board, and I turned off the lights in the TV. Then I lit a candle because it's really important in this situation. I explained the rules of playing with a Ouija board, and then we started. "Spirits," I said, "we're not here to harm you or make fun of you. We're here to hear you out." I moved the plastic bottle cap around the homemade board and asked our first question. "If there's someone here, we're here to listen. What's your name?" The bottle cap started moving. I felt my cheeks getting warm because I was nervous. I honestly wasn't expecting anything to happen. My face started turning red. "You're moving it." "No, Beth, I'm not," I replied. The board spelled out in, then moved to E. I looked at Elizabeth and asked, "In E, what does that mean?" Elizabeth shrugged. "Can you please finish spelling your name for us?" I asked. The bottle cap didn't move for another 3 minutes as we sat there. "Let's say goodbye now. Sorry, spirit. We have to leave," I said. Elizabeth and I moved the bottle cap to goodbye. I blew out the candle and put it back in its holder. We tore up the paper Elizabeth used to make the Ouija board and threw it in the trash. About an hour later, we went to bed. The next day, Elizabeth left and everything seemed normal. A week passed, and I totally forgot about the strange Ouija board thing. At one point, I turned on my candle holder. It warms up from the bottom. After turning it on, I left the room for about 10 minutes to clean my bathroom. When I came back, I noticed there was a weird plastic hanging in the air. I rushed over to the candle warmer and pulled the candle out of the holder, and then I just stopped. I was so confused. I didn't know what to think, because there, sitting at the bottom of the candle holder, was my retainer. It was starting to melt. I snapped out of my shock and took the retainer case out from the bottom, then put the candle back in the warmer. I couldn't believe it. How did this end up here? I wondered. My retainer was still in its case. I have 2 retainers. I quickly grabbed my phone and texted Elizabeth. You won't believe this, but I found my retainer case at the bottom of the candle warmer. The same warmer we used for the Ouija board candle. Did you put this here? I texted. No way, that's not funny, she replied. How did it end up there? I really don't know, I said. My retainer wasn't near the candle at all. We were both puzzled. I went to my brother and showed him my retainer, asking if he had put it there. He rolled his eyes and asked why he would do that. I just said, and went to my Nana. She said she hadn't done it and found it weird. It's been 2 years since then, and I still don't know how it got there. But it scared me enough to stay away from Ouija boards. Although I still wonder, what does NE mean? A few years ago, maybe 2 or 3, my friend and I were feeling bored. It was when lots of people were talking about Ouija boards on social media. I've always been interested in that stuff, so we both thought it would be cool to make our own Ouija board. I think we also made a simple planchette out of cardboard, with a hole in the middle. Then we took everything down to my basement. And that was a big mistake, as I found out later. We started playing around with the Ouija board. I don't remember exactly what we asked or what happened, but I do remember feeling really surprised. It was like something was pulling the planchette down and moving it around, almost like a magnet. After playing with the Ouija board for a few minutes, both of us felt a cold chill just on the arms we were using to play. It wasn't like a breeze, but it felt really cold, almost freezing. Now, here's the main part of the story. That night, I was in my bedroom. I got up to go to the bathroom, which is right across the hall from my room. I went there to brush my teeth and get ready for bed. I left my phone on my bed before I went to the bathroom. When I finished getting ready, I opened the bathroom door and saw that the lights in my room were off. This made me really worried, but I tried to tell myself it was nothing. Even though I was scared, I just turned the lights back on in my room. I wanted to grab my phone to help calm me down, but I couldn't find it on my bed or anywhere nearby. I got really scared. So I quickly turned off the lights, jumped into bed, and hid under the covers. I tried to go to sleep, but I couldn't stop thinking about the Ouija board we used earlier that day. It was in the closet, just about 5 feet away from me. Even now, I still think about that night, and I don't understand what happened. I haven't used the homemade Ouija board since then, but about 3 months later, I bought a real Ouija board. I haven't had any remarkable experiences with it like I did with the homemade one. I want to share the experience that made me start believing in ghosts. I've been to many touristy ghost towns and taken creepy tours, but my visit to Jerome, Arizona was unlike any other. Jerome is this charming little town nestled atop a mountain, with a unique vibe that caught my attention right away. And it's seen its fair share of sad events. There have been mine accidents and big outbreaks of tuberculosis. A friend who lives nearby told me about Jerome, and I decided to stay there through Airbnb with a nice older couple. My plan was to visit my friend who told me about the town. So when I got there, I was amazed at how quiet the town was. Except for the bars, it felt like everyone was in tune with the town's history. Before I even booked any ghost tours, a father and son who lived in an old cathedral offered to show me around. They were local guides, and they knew all about the haunted places in town. The tour started with me, a young couple also staying in town, and the guides. I chatted with the guides and learned a lot about the town and their own experiences over the years. They shared stories about homeless men who had been dead for a long time, and even a nun who supposedly pushed one of the guides down the stairs in the cathedral when they moved in. We visited all the usual spots. We visited old mines, hospitals turned into stores, and finally, an old coffee shop, which was once a popular bar, and then a secret bar during Prohibition. As soon as we walked in, I felt strange. They said that a man who died during Prohibition still hangs around here, and he would sometimes talk to people if he thought they were interesting. In the shop, There's an old couch from that time that they said he would sometimes sit on. Anyway, like I said, it felt strange. I could tell the guides felt it too, so we sat down and started asking basic questions. After a while, we started hearing noises. There were soft knocks on the bathroom door and walls. We thought it might be just chance or someone playing a prank on us, encouraged by the guides to keep going. But the knocks kept getting louder. Let's just say the young couple got really scared and left, along with the older guide, so it was just me and the younger guide left in the room. Even though it wasn't too scary, it's something I'll always remember as the moment I became convinced about ghosts.